Hey, thanks for joining us for this special event. My name is John Terry, and I want to welcome you to this very important discussion about you. That's right. We're going to spend the next several minutes talking about your retirement reality. Now, we all have hopes and dreams of what we want retirement to be, but reality can be much different. In fact, the earlier we start the planning process and the better job we do along the way, the greater the odds that our dream of retirement and our actual reality will truly align. Now, this presentation and our time together is intended to be a conversation starter. I want to spend the opening few minutes talking about how we as Americans got to where we are today. And then I want to spend the remainder of our time together talking about mission critical things that you should be considering and you should be planning for as you transition from the workaday world into retirement. And if what I say resonates with you, I welcome an opportunity to continue the conversation, to answer your questions, and to help you make more informed decisions about how you align your dreams for retirement with your reality. Now, let me say on the front end that this presentation is intended to provide a general overview of some important things that you should consider as you plan for retirement. We're talking about retirement. We can't cover everything in a single setting, so this is not going to be an exhaustive study. Now, I'm not a CPA, I'm not an attorney, so nothing in this presentation should be construed as the giving of legal or tax advice, and if you need that information, seek an attorney or seek a CPA to get the best answers that you can. I am a licensed financial professional, and I've been working in this arena for almost 3 decades. Let me say this. Retirement planning is a very complex process, and I want to encourage you to seek qualified assistance from a knowledgeable professional like myself who can help you make informed decisions about your unique situation. So let's get started. And first off, I want to blame the gentleman that you see here, and it's his reason that we're having this conversation. This is Ponce de Leon. Let me give you a little backstory on this interesting gentleman, and you already know a part of the story. Ponce de Leon was born in 1460. He was the Spanish explorer that's credited with leading the very first European expedition to Florida in 1513. Many people believe that he probably traveled with Christopher Columbus on the 1493 voyage to discover the New World. For a period of time, he served as the governor of the eastern province of Hispaniola, which today we would call Haiti and the Dominican Republic. And while there, he decided to explore a nearby island in search of gold. Now, that island was Puerto Rico. And while he was there, he began to hear rumors from the local natives about a fabled fountain of youth that was located on the island of Bimini. Now, it was in search of this mysterious island that Ponce de Leon took a wrong turn, and he landed by mistake on the coast of Florida, where he began to search for this fabled fountain of youth. Returning to the region in 1521 to colonize the area and continue his search, he was fatally wounded in an Indian attack, never finding the life-giving waters of the fountain of youth. But the legend was born, and many explorers, even today, have followed in Ponce de Leon's footsteps, searching for this fabled fountain of youth. You know, throughout history and throughout different cultures, similar legends of an elixir of youth can be found, many of those in Chinese and Japanese folklore. Now, throughout history, we know that kings and rulers have sought to cheat death, and they've turned to alchemists who've worked for centuries to create a potion or a pill that would extend life. And even the story is not immune to Hollywood. The 1992 comedy classic Death Becomes Her with Bruce Willis, Meryl Streep, and Goldie Hawn take kind of a twisted, dark look at the fountain of youth and the secret of eternal life and the dark side of what that could become. More recently, the Chinese fable of an elixir of life was revisited in the martial arts classic The Forbidden Kingdom with Jackie Chan and Jet Li. But today we remember Ponce de Leon for his fabled fountain of youth. And though we're not yet living forever, we're living longer than previous generations. We're experiencing what I like to call the Ponce de Leon effect, longevity. And that's changing how we should think about and plan for retirement. You know, on average, you're going to spend 2/3 of your lifetime preparing for the third of your lifetime that you will live in retirement. That's right. Today's retirees, on average, will spend 20 to 30 years in retirement. In fact, Popular Science Summer 2018 published an article that read, "This is how we die in America." In the opening salvo, it made the statement that today's average baby boomer will live 20 years longer than their grandparents. You know, medical technology, along with an improved understanding of nutrition and exercise, has really expanded the concept of what it means to be old and continues to push the boundaries of longevity, not only here in the United States, but around the world. Today, we survive the things that used to kill us: heart attack, stroke, cancer, and many dread diseases that a few decades ago would have taken our lives, today are survivable events. So think about this. Have you given thought to what you'll do when a third of your life is going to be lived in retirement? How many rounds of golf can you play, and really, do you want to play in a 20-year retirement? How many cruises can you experience? And I guess really there, how many can you afford to experience in a 20 or 30-year retirement? You know, longevity is truly causing us to rethink retirement, and that's shifting our reality. And whether we're ready or not, retirement's looming ahead. For many of us, it's the next exit on the road of life that we're traveling. But because of longevity, we all face a dilemma. On one hand, living longer means we have more time in retirement to do the things we've always dreamed of doing: golf, destination vacations, foreign travel, time with the grandkids, all those things you've dreamed of doing your entire life. Because when every day's the weekend, you have the time to do what you've spent years dreaming of and saving for in retirement. But on the other hand, living longer means that the money you have saved is going to have to last longer in retirement, and that's going to require that you seek wise counsel as to the very best strategies to maximize your income opportunities. Why? Because you want to make sure that you have sustainable sources of income that will last your entire lifetime. Or in the event you're married, that income has to last for 2 lifetimes. So as you transition into retirement, your paycheck will no longer come from your employer. It's going to come from you. That's right, the savings that you've accumulated over your working years are going to be the basis for your paycheck in retirement. So your income plan will need to be able to provide consistent, sustainable income for 20 to 30 years or longer. Now, that'll include your Social Security benefits, distributions from your retirement accounts like your 401k, your IRA, or your Roth, and any other income-producing assets that you may own. You know, it's important that you count the cost as you prepare to enter retirement, because once you're there, you can only spend what you've saved. Let me say that again. Once you're there, you can only spend what you've saved. So your retirement reality is going to be determined by the amount of income-producing assets that you've accumulated over your working lifetime and how much money that can consistently generate on a monthly basis. So let's take a minute to talk about one of the linchpins of income planning, and that's Social Security. Now, this is an important decision that you will need to make, and that's when to claim Social Security retirement benefits. You can begin claiming benefits as early as age 62, but you won't receive your full benefits until what is known as full retirement age. Now, this full retirement age is based upon the year of your birth. And if you claim benefits early, prior to your full retirement age, your benefit check is going to be permanently reduced, resulting in a lower Social Security retirement check every month for the rest of your life. Now, for every year beyond full retirement age that you wait and defer claiming those benefits, your account will receive an additional 8% deferral credit up to the age of 70. So let me give you an example. If your full retirement age is 67 and you choose to defer claiming Social Security retirement benefits to age 70, your account would receive an additional deferred credit of 8% annually for an additional 3 years. Now, this can substantially improve your Social Security retirement benefit check over time. Now, let me also say this. Your claiming decision is an individual one. There are a number of factors that go into the claiming process. So this should be done wisely with the help of a knowledgeable financial professional. Now, let me cover some more on Social Security. Married couples in particular should pay very close attention to this Social Security claiming decision. Why? Because this decision not only affects the value of benefits received today, but the value of benefits a survivor will receive at the death of the first spouse. Now, when one spouse passes away, the survivor will receive the greater of their own benefit or that of their spouses. Now, wives tend to outlive husbands in a married situation by an average of 5 to 7 years. But husbands, on average, tend to earn more than their wives over their working career because oftentimes women have taken a break from the workforce to help raise a family. So as a result of that, if a husband claims Social Security benefits early, it not only results in a lower benefit check today, it often becomes a reduced retirement benefit check to that surviving widow, leaving less money than could have been left if proper planning had been in place. Now, to understand your Social Security benefits, it starts with taking a look at your Social Security benefit statement. You can access those through the Social Security website, www.ssa.gov. Now, this is a good starting point to begin to make that important claiming decision, and that's understanding the benefits that are available to you at various ages during your lifetime. And this is a conversation with this document in hand that would be good for you and a knowledgeable financial professional to have so that they can assist you in looking at the factors to help you make a more informed decision about Social Security claiming. This is important because for most families, Social Security will comprise 40 to 60% of your guaranteed income in retirement. Now, another mission-critical element that we have to consider in retirement is the monster lurking under the bed. This is the monster that I call inflation. Now, what is inflation? By definition, it's the loss of purchasing power over time. So think about this. Even at a modest 3% inflation rate, an item purchased today for $100 would cost $175 20 years later. That's a 75% increase. And as we enter retirement, oftentimes our income is somewhat fixed, but the cost of goods and services that we utilize in retirement tend to increase at a faster inflation rate than that of the general populace. One example of that is healthcare expenditures. It's a prime example of what is often referred to as boomer inflation. And though the core inflation rate in America today is somewhere between 2 and 3%, boomer inflation, on the other hand, is estimated to be between 4 and 6% by many sources. Mitigation inflation over a 20 to 30-year retirement is a challenge, but it can be done. And unlike Social Security and maybe a pension, if you're lucky enough to have one, most income-producing assets in retirement don't include an automatic cost of living adjustment. So things like income laddering or having multiple income streams that start at different points during retirement are two of several strategies that you can implement to help assure that you can maintain your purchasing power throughout the 20 to 30 years that could be your retirement reality. Now, in the Popular Science article, How We Die in America, it also pointed out the fact that we are today living to an age when age-related illness and injury are more likely to bring about our demise than shock events like heart attack, stroke, and cancer. Today, we're living to the age where we're much more likely to require assistance with activities of daily living, things like dressing, bathing, or walking. Now, the cost of this type of care is staggering, and only around 15 to 20% of Americans today have done any formal planning for dealing with the physical, emotional, and financial costs that are associated with what we call long-term care. And if left alone or ignored, long-term care can devastate a lifetime of savings in just a matter of months. It is expensive. And as we see an increasing rise in the number of Alzheimer's and dementia cases across America, and the duration of these events lengthening because of longevity, it's so important that you have a conversation with a knowledgeable financial professional to discuss how you're going to pay for long-term care in the event it impacts you. Now, we may all think we're Superman or Superwoman, and it's not going to happen to us, but to everybody else. Let me share with you a sobering statistic. According to longtermcare.gov, the Department of Health and Human Services reports that 7 in 10 Americans who are 65 years of age or older are going to experience a long-term care event prior to death. Now, according to the Genworth Cost of Care Study 2018, the average annual cost of a semi-private nursing home in 2018 was $89,292. And to pay for an assisted living facility or at-home care was around $48,000 a year in 2018. Now, we know that long-term care expenses are increasing at around 6% annually. So that means in just 20 years, taking the 2018 numbers, the average annual cost of a semi-private nursing home will increase to $156,574 a year. And to pay for an assisted living facility or at-home care will rise to a cost of $84,168 a year. This is perhaps one of the greatest risks, if not the greatest risk, to retirement if left unplanned for. So you don't want to roll the dice when it comes to planning for a long-term care event. The odds always favor the house. Now, let's talk about market volatility as we enter retirement, another mission-critical area of planning. You know, if you're like most Americans, you've got at least a portion of your assets in the stock market. Jeremy Siegel, author of Stocks for the Long Haul, makes a compelling case that over time, nothing has outperformed the stock market. But the problem is this: as you approach retirement, time is no longer your ally. In fact, it becomes an enemy. Because if the market experiences a major correction, you simply don't have time to recover and make back the losses. You're already in retirement and you need income today and you need it tomorrow. That means you need at least a portion of your assets to be principal protected and away from adverse market risk. To do otherwise is to potentially expose your income to loss. And if your income is reduced in retirement, it may not last as long as you do. And that's a scenario that no one wants to experience. So let me share an example with you. If you're like most Americans, you've probably benefited from participating in your employer-sponsored retirement plan, typically a 401k. And if you're like most Americans, you've got a sizable portion of your retirement portfolio in financial instruments in that 401k that are directly exposed to market risk. Now, how many of you experienced the woes of the 2008 market correction? How long did it take you to recover? 5 years? 7 years? 10 years? Are you still recovering? So think about how many years that you were playing catch up from a market correction and making back what you lost rather than growing more wealth for retirement. So let's consider what could happen if you'd accumulated $500,000 in your employer's 401k over your working career, and just before retirement or immediately after you retired, you personally experience market volatility. So consider this. Your 401k balance is $500,000, and you're planning to withdraw 4% annually, which is $20,000, to add to your Social Security benefits to maintain your standard of living in retirement. Now, if the market were to make a 30% correction, your 401k balance is now $350,000. Using that same 4% number, you're only able to pull $14,000 a year. You're $6,000 short of being able to maintain your standard of living. And if you need $20,000 a year plus your Social Security to be able to maintain your standard of living, you now have to pull almost 6% annually, almost 50% more to get the same $20,000 a year. So now think about what's happening. You're liquidating an asset that's already been diminished by a market correction at a much faster rate. And if you do the math, it's not a good formula for long-term financial success. Now, what if, on the other hand, you had used one of the analytical tools that we use in working with our clients that help you align your assets with your desired retirement reality? You know, one of the tools that I use to help my clients is a tool that lets them understand how their risk tolerance or lack of willingness to expose their money to risk impacts how they allocate their assets between at-risk instruments that are exposed to market risk and what I like to call safe money assets that don't expose money to market volatility. Now, as you near retirement, this analysis is especially important because the last thing that you want to experience in your 401k is a major market correction. Because I want to say what I said earlier, when you get to retirement, you can only spend what you've saved. And if you've given some of that back to the market because of a loss, you've got less to spend in your savings account. So think about this. If the market did experience another 40 to 50% correction like it did in 2008, and your 401k in essence becomes a 201k, you now have two choices. You can retire on 50 cents on the dollar, or you can keep working for many, many years to be able to earn it all back. Now, we believe there are 15 significant years that you should be especially sensitive to as you begin to approach and enter retirement. How you allocate your portfolio 7 years prior to retirement, the year you retire, and the first 7 years post-retirement will have a tremendous impact on your long-term financial outcome. In fact, many economists today believe that your portfolio should be more conservative during this period of time than any other in retirement. Now, why is that? The answer is time. If you participate in a market downturn during these 15 critical years, you simply don't have time to financially recover. You know, nobody I know wants to retire with less, or to be forced to postpone a planned retirement due to a market downturn as you're nearing retirement. So it's important to review your portfolio and consider making adjustments to minimize your portfolio's risk exposure during this highly important transition window. Now, one of the keys to success in retirement income planning is a word we've all heard, and that's diversification. You know the old adage, don't put all your eggs in one basket? Well, it still rings true. Asset diversification in retirement is important. You need a guaranteed source of sustainable income in retirement to pay your bills because life goes on even after you retire. There are going to be expenses that are going to follow you and I all the way to the grave. Now, in addition to these guaranteed income assets, you're going to need assets that are going to keep growing over time, allowing you to tap those later on to stay ahead of inflation. These assets can be part of a secondary income stream that you can turn on later in retirement to maintain your standard of living despite the rising cost of goods and services due to inflation. Another important area of planning is having an emergency fund because life sometimes happens whether we're prepared or not. Whether it's replacing an automobile, an appliance, or a roof, losses in life are inevitable. So how do you pay for an unplanned accident or injury or loss without impacting your income that you're using to pay your monthly bills? That's where an emergency fund comes into play. You know, having at least 3 to 6 months of income set aside for life's uncertainties is a very positive planning step. That helps assure that your retirement reality doesn't become a nightmare. And if you can position your assets so that 9 to 12 months of living expenses are in reserve, that's even better. Now, let's face it, none of us are getting any younger, and retirement is going to come one day, whether we're ready for it or not. The question is whether or not you're going to retire, but whether or not you're going to be prepared when you do. Will it be raining or will it be sun shining when you retire? Or to put it another way, will you thrive in retirement or will you simply survive? This is a question that I want to help you answer with certainty. And one of the things that I utilize is a series of analytical tools to help you see the reality of where you are today and the steps that you may need to take or you may want to take if your dreams and your reality are not yet aligned. This is an opportunity for you to take a very candid look at where you are and how you'll fare financially as you begin to enter the final third of your lifetime that we call retirement. If you're where you want to be, these tools will simply validate that, giving you certainty. But if you're not quite there yet, we can have a further conversation on what adjustments that you may need to take to align your current reality with your dream for retirement. So let me ask you this question. What does your retirement reality look like? If you're like many of us that are thinking about the topics we've covered so far, you may not have an idea of what retirement really looks like. You may have a dream, but dreams and reality can be very far apart. Now, let me say this. Retirement means different things to different people, and you and I are no different. And regardless of what retirement looks like to you, it's going to be better if you prepared in advance to enjoy it. That means putting together a financial plan that will provide guaranteed sustainable income that will last as long as you and your spouse, if you're married, will live. It also means taking the steps to mitigate the impact of inflation, as retirement for most of us is going to last a long, long time. So having a discussion on inflation and also bringing into the conversation how you plan for a long-term care event should it occur and how that might impact your retirement, taking those steps to prepare in advance is essential to your long-term financial success. So it's important that you have a conversation with a trusted financial professional, someone who's knowledgeable about the things that we've covered in the time that we've spent together. You need to have a clear understanding of some of the major risks you're going to face in retirement and how to mitigate those risks through proper planning. And this is where I can help. One of the analytical tools that I use with my clients is what I refer to as a retirement income snapshot. It allows me to analyze your income sources in retirement, including your Social Security, your 401k, your IRA, your other income-producing assets, and to match those sources with your estimated and anticipated expenses in retirement. In fact, using these software tools, we can factor in a cost of living adjustment for Social Security. We can make some assumptions about inflation and taxes in the event taxes are relevant in your state to help you determine how you allocate these income sources so that you can have guaranteed sustainable income, mitigate the impact of inflation, and address healthcare concerns long-term to make sure that you've got the best opportunity for a successful outcome in retirement. Now, this software tool is something very effective, and we use it to help our clients understand their own retirement reality, as well as to help provide assurance to them that they will have enough money to not only cover their expenses in retirement, but to do many or all of the things they've always dreamed of doing. So as we close, let me summarize what we've talked about tonight. There's some very important steps that you should be taking as you transition into retirement. Your long-term financial success is predicated on the mission-critical actions that you take today to help assure a more secure financial outcome. Now, if you're about to exit or you've already exited onto the retirement off-ramp, congratulations. But you need to stop and you need to take a candid look at where you are today so that you're less likely to experience financial surprises in the future. If you not yet got to the exit, you've still got some time. And again, the earlier we start the planning process, the better the opportunity for you to see success down the road. Now, if you've exited that retirement off-ramp and you're already on retirement highway, there are still things that you can do that maybe you haven't considered. There are still some action steps that you can take to make sure that you maximize what you've got left, what you spent a lifetime saving, so that it lasts as long as possible. So what am I offering? An opportunity to sit down with you and to help you evaluate your current retirement reality. I want to answer the questions that I know you're asking. And more importantly, I want to answer the questions that you should be asking. So at the end of the day, I want to make sure that you've got the information to make a more informed and intelligent decision about how you're going to financially navigate the next third of your lifetime in retirement. Now, I've blocked off my calendar for the next 2 weeks to be available to you. And when we sit down to meet, I want to walk you through a series of questions with your permission to understand where you are and what you've done and what's important to you as it pertains to your retirement. And again, with your permission, I'd like to gather some information about what you've done to prepare and to conduct an analysis to give you a visual picture of where you are and what your retirement reality will look like for you and your family over the next 20 years. And with this information, you'll be able to see any shortfalls in your planning, or you're going to know with certainty that what you've done is going to allow you to thrive in retirement. Now, if there are any shortfalls, I will share some ideas on how you might tweak what you're doing to either minimize or eliminate these obstacles so that you've got a better chance to enjoy a financially secure retirement. You can then make an informed, educated decision about how you would like to proceed. And this meeting is complimentary. It's my gift to you. And after we meet and I show you what we can do for you, you make the choice of whether or not we're going to work together in the future if there's a need for my services. So at the end of our time together, my goal for you is one thing: financial peace of mind. I want you to have the assurance that your retirement reality actually works for you. Let me thank you for attending. I appreciate the time that you've given me this evening, and I look forward to furthering the conversation when we have an opportunity to sit down together and discuss your retirement reality.